Slater in 2001. Each year, MTI has sponsored teams across the nation, and we are proud that over 1,000 students have participated. The students give a lot of the time, the teachers, the mentors, everybody coming together to help these young minds understand the careers available to them in transportation. I'm sitting here with a team right now who actually met over their spring breaks to make sure that their presentation was polished and ready for Secretary Fox and our panel of judges. We honor Garrett Morgan with this competition. Garrett Morgan had only an elementary school education, but he blazed a trail for African American inventors. He has several patents to his credit, but most notably, he created a new kind of traffic signal, one that alerted drivers that they would have to stop. It was the first iteration of our modern three-way traffic light that you see everywhere today. We know there are trailblazers among our students. We thank them for their participation, and we hope that you will be inspired to enter the field of transportation. Now, very importantly, today's winning team will win $1,000 for their classroom. They will also receive a plaque, and 2 representatives from the winning team, all expenses paid, will be invited to present at the Minetta Transportation Institute Graduation and Awards Banquet this June. There, they'll have the opportunity to say a few words to over 400 transportation professionals. Our second place team will receive $300 for their classroom, as well as a plaque. Our third place team will receive $200 in a plaque. And of course, for each of you, for your achievement, you'll receive a certificate of participation. So let's turn now to Bud Wright. We're very honored today to have Mr. Bud Wright, the Executive Director of the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Professionals, and very importantly, a Minetta Transportation Institute trustee, join us in Washington, D.C. He represents AASHTO, which advocates transportation-related policies and provides technical services to support states in their efforts to efficiently and safely move goods and people. Bud, we're honored with your presence. Please take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Philbrick. I appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. It's really my honor and pleasure to be a part of this event. There are 2 things that really excite me in transportation. One is the fact that there are so many things yet to be fixed, so many things yet to be decided as to how we construct the transportation system of our future. It requires innovation, it requires creativity, it requires the kinds of ideas that you represent and that you're bringing to the table. And I would say all of you are winners just by the fact that you're here, just by the fact that you're in this competition. You've already demonstrated that you're bringing ideas to the table. But the second thing that excites me about an event like this is that we're looking at the workforce of tomorrow. We're looking at the people who are going to lead transportation in this country. Somewhere in this room or on one of the screens out in California, maybe there's the next Garrett Morgan. Maybe there's that person that's going to invent something so life-changing as Dr. Morgan did. Think about it. Every day when you're on a road, and every one of us uses the roads and highways in this country on a daily basis or depends on them, that traffic signal has made a difference for generations. What's the next thing going to be? It may be something that you guys are going to be demonstrating here today and competing with. So I'm excited to see what you have brought to the table. I'm excited about the fact that all of you are interested enough in transportation and helping us develop the transportation system of the future that you're here. So it's our pleasure, Dr. Philbrick, to be associated with the competition, and I can't wait to see the ideas that these guys are bringing to the table.
Thank you so much. You actually gave me goosebumps. Thank you for those words. I'd like to now welcome Pam Boswell to address our students. Pam is the Vice President for Workforce Development and Education Services for the American Public Transportation Association. Her career spans more than 26 years. She's received multiple awards, most notably the Exceptional Service Award for her work supporting the World Trade Center after the 1993 bombing. Pam, I thank you personally for your work with the Garrett Morgan program. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Philbrick. First of all, on behalf of APTA, we are delighted to participate again in the annual Garrett Morgan competition. I'm pleased to say that we've been involved since its inception, and we're excited about having our team here today. You represent the best of what we can expect in the future. Over the next 5 to 10 years, over 50% of transportation's workforce will be retiring. And so there's a great need for students and professionals to come forward to help make sure that we have a strong infrastructure, a strong transportation system. I encourage you to think about different careers. There are programs in science, technology, engineering, and math, and we're pleased to have our STEM team here. So there are a lot of opportunities, and we hope that you will take on the challenge and bring your innovation, creativity, and exceptional work. Thank you.
And thank you. I'd like to now take a moment to say a few words about Secretary of Transportation Norman Mineta, the founder of MTI, who's been with us every year until 2016. He sends his regrets, but unfortunately he could not join us today. But I'd like to honor him and say a few things. Secretary Mineta actually served in 2 presidential cabinets. He served as the Secretary of Commerce for President Clinton, and he served as the Secretary of Transportation for President Bush. He is probably best known for his actions following the events of 9/11. He grounded all airline traffic over the United States and acted swiftly to protect our nation's citizens. Secretary Mineta asked me to introduce Secretary Fox, which is a terrific honor. We are just delighted beyond words that you could join us today. And for our students in the room, I hope you realize what a big deal this is. Secretary Fox, an attorney by education and the former mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, is the nation's most important person in transportation. He leads a workforce of 55,000 employees with a budget of over $70 billion. He works to make sure that our system is safe, and he was an important person in driving the passage of the FAST Act, our long-term surface transportation bill. Now, students, this is truly a remarkable moment. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Fox.
Good afternoon to those of you students who are here and those of you who are on the video. I want to thank you so much for joining this incredible competition. And I'm thinking about when I was your age, which is perhaps impossible for you to imagine. I could not have envisioned being the Secretary of Transportation when I was your age, but I'm confident that the work you're doing as part of this competition is preparing all of you for something incredible in your lives. And I want to say congratulations to every one of the entrants. I think Bud said it well in that all of you are winners for being part of this. Transportation is changing. It's becoming the cool, hot thing to do now, because we do need to figure out how we're going to reduce travel times and get you places faster and safer and even better than we have in the past. And your generation is going to be very much a part of helping us figure that out. So I couldn't be prouder of all of you. I'm looking forward to having a lot of time here to interact with you, and I look forward to seeing what you've all been working on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we have an exciting opportunity, perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and that is each of our 8 student teams have the opportunity to ask Secretary Fox, a presidential cabinet member, one question. Let's turn now to our first team, Gaithersburg, grade 7, with you there in Washington, D.C.
How old were you when you became the 17th Secretary of Transportation?
Thank you. That's a great question. I want to compliment you on the bow tie. I think it's really cool. I was 43 43 when I was
43.
Nominated.
It's very young. Okay, thank you for that question. Gaithersburg, grade 8. Please take it away. There in Washington, D.C., do we have a grade 8 representative? There we go.
If I were interested in a career in transportation, what type of areas should I study?
Well, this is a great question. What areas would you study? Well, first of all, as you all know, our transportation systems have to move a lot of people and a lot of things, and they have to be safe. So subjects like the STEM subjects, science, technology, math, and so forth, are very important, engineering and math. I would also say, though, that we want folks who are well-rounded in transportation, too, folks who can think about not only making things that hold up well over time, but things that are beautiful, things you want to look at. And so I would say studying art and studying some of the architecture around the world, I think also helps you kind of think about how to design and build the things of the future. And I'd also say this, because transportation is changing, just think about cars. When I was growing up, cars were, you'd roll yourself under the car, you'd get grease all over you and so forth. And now cars are becoming much more sophisticated instruments, and mechanics use computers now to figure out what's wrong with a car. There are some cars now that aren't using oil or gasoline, and there's no oil to spill on you. And so those careers are actually changing as well. So I think you need to know a little bit about computers and how to navigate software as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's turn to Toddy Thomas Middle School, Caltrans District 1.
We will run out of fossil fuels. How does the country plan on fixing the problem?
Well, that's a great question. Look, we have a big challenge with fossil fuels because even if we had an unlimited supply, we know that fossil fuels also contribute to climate change, and we should want to reduce our dependency on those. And this administration under the president has done a lot to try to clean up the air. We've raised fuel efficiency standards in cars. So cars are now getting more miles to the gallon than they used to. That's an important development. We are also working to expand the use of different types of fuels in cars. So that's why you see the growth of electric vehicles. There'll eventually be more hydrogen-powered vehicles on the road, and even cars that use different, less impactful fossil fuels like compressed natural gas that are cleaner for the environment. So I think over your lifetime, what we use to power vehicles is going to change pretty dramatically. And even though most cars on the road today use gasoline, I think that's going to be much, much different by the time you are my age.
Very good. Thank you. And let's turn to the second team from Toddy Thomas Middle School for their question.
If we wanted to go into a college field of transportation, what college would you recommend going into?
Oh, wow. Davidson, that's the only place to go. And by the way, you can be part of the Steph Curry family if you do that. So I'm joking. There are a lot of great schools all around the country. As I said before, most folks in transportation, one way or another, are involved in one of the STEM subjects. So I think that's generally where we find ourselves. But I would also encourage you to be very well-rounded. I mean, learn to play a sport, learn to play an instrument, learn a little bit about art, as I said before, because being well-rounded helps you be better at whatever you choose.
And thank you. Let's turn to Frick Middle School, Caltrans District 4. We're ready for your question.
Will these ideas actually be used to help transportation in the San Francisco Bay Area?
The ideas you're developing as part of the competition?
Yes.
I hope so. We need some good ideas. There's a lot of traffic out there.
Very good.
It's a good question.
Urban Promise Academy, also in District 4.
We learned that if you use sustainable transportation, you can save money on your taxes. How can we fund new projects if we have more and more sustainable options?
Oh, that's a really good question. This is getting harder and harder as I go along. You're right, absolutely right, that right now the way that we pay for our roads really depends on people consuming more and more fossil fuels. And it's been that way for quite some time. And I do think we're reaching a point where the more efficient our vehicles become, the less money we have to both build and sustain the system that we enjoy today. And that's one of the reasons why in the last transportation bill, Congress began several discretionary programs, several pilot programs that are going to start experimenting with different ways to pay for transportation. These will not be experiments that will be national in scope, but they'll be at the state level, looking at things like, for example, a per mile charge. Instead of charging by the gallon, what about the mile of usage of the roadways you do? That'd be a different system that would pick up those vehicles that are more efficient and even vehicles that don't use oil-based fuels at all. There are other ideas out there, like there are even ideas about carbon taxes and things that are being discussed, and we'll see what comes back to us. But that is one of the biggest questions in transportation right now, which is how do we pay for the system we need without unduly encouraging the consumption of oil.
Thank you for that response. Murata Middle School, Caltrans District 10.
What would be the best fuel alternative source after we run out of fossil fuels?
Well, I think there's a lot of promise for electric. I think hydrogen has some possibilities, although we're not seeing quite as much usage of hydrogen yet. You might have read that Toyota has said that by 2050 they're not going to have any new cars made to use oil. So they've made a big commitment to go in a different direction, and they are putting a lot of investment into hydrogen. So we'll see how that goes. So I think it's going to be probably a mix of things for a while, and then one will break through. But I don't begin to know exactly which one it'll be, but it's good that we're starting to think about it now.
Very good. And our last question from Team 8 here in San Jose, California, are students from Shepherd Middle School.
Hi, Secretary Fox. We were the team
Hi.
last year that asked if you played basketball with the president. Instead, this year, we want to challenge you to a basketball game. If we win, we ask you to support the San Jose transit projects like BART Phase 2. So, are you up for the challenge?
Wow, this is serious business. Okay, I have to start working out now. I have to start. There's 4 of you and there's 1 of me. I'm not so sure how this is going to go, but no, I'd be happy not only to play basketball with you, but to consider the project as well. You all are amazing. This whole program is amazing, and one of the things that I want you to know is that part of what we also have to think about in transportation is the trip we don't take. There are actually cities and communities across the country that are planning transportation by thinking about how people want to use it and putting housing nearby where people work and allowing them to walk and not have to hop in a car or hop on a train or whatever is also a transportation strategy. So as we're thinking about clean ways to travel, we should also think about ways that we can use our land use to reduce the number of trips we have to take. But yes, I'll play basketball with you. It's time to call Steph. That's right. I'm calling Steph Curry.
Well, thank you again for joining us today. We are honored with your president, Secretary Fox, and we appreciate you supporting the Mineta Transportation Institute 2016 Garrett Morgan Sustainable Transportation Competition. Please join me in thanking Secretary Fox.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
We have another distinguished guest that it's my pleasure to welcome today, and that's Director Malcolm Dougherty, joining us from Caltrans District 6. He leads the California Department of Transportation, known as Caltrans, with 20,000 employees and $11 billion budget. He's responsible for overseeing the 50,000 lane miles of California's world-class freeway system. He is the person responsible for approving this very competition's use of the Caltrans video conference bridge. We thank you, Malcolm. He's a tireless supporter of our Institute's activities and has served on our Board of Trustees with honor. Malcolm, I invite you to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Philbrick, and let me thank you and your staff and the Mineta Transportation Institute for everything that you do. Hopefully the students appreciated the presentation by some of those other distinguished guests. It is also our honor to hear from Secretary Fox and the information that he has to share, and it's always a pleasure to hear from other experts such as Bud Wright and Pam Boswell as well. I also want to thank the teachers and the mentors and the sponsors that also made this happen and for investing your energy in these kids. But most of all, I want to congratulate all the students for all the hard work that they put in. And I very much enjoy and look forward to seeing the presentations as I do each and every year. I'm always impressed at the information that is presented and the ideas that you have. I have an 8th grader myself, so I know how creative you all can be. So I'm appreciative to be here once again. I want to elaborate on one point of questions that you asked earlier about different lines of profession. Certainly the STEM fields are going to be very important for transportation, but other areas of environmental, sustainability, right-of-way, and some of the computer programming are also going to be part of the transportation in the future because it's getting more and more modern, and we have other objectives that we want to accomplish in addition to just improving mobility. So think along those lines. I certainly didn't know what I wanted to do 25 years ago, but now I can tell you and I can vouch for the fact that transportation is a very exciting field. I've had a lot of different things. I was involved with a lot of different things, but now I'm actually having conversations about Hyperloop and autopilot in cars and connected vehicles and autonomous vehicles, and I think it just is an exciting field. So hopefully some of you will this process will pique your interest and you'll pursue a field in transportation, and that doesn't necessarily have to be in engineering, but it could be. So one of the things that I do have the pleasure of doing, and one of my tasks, is to formally introduce each of the schools and their teachers and mentors. So let me begin with the school on the East Coast in Maryland, and I actually grew up in New Jersey on the East Coast, so I'm very familiar with that area. From Gaithersburg Middle School in Gaithersburg, Maryland, their teacher, Jason Miller, and Virginia Pantella, and also I believe that their assistant principal, Kimberly McClurkin-Harris, is present, and their sponsor is APTA and Pam Boswell. So welcome and thank you to the sponsors and teachers, and good luck to each of the students from Gaithersburg Middle School. Next, I want to introduce the schools on the West Coast, and I will begin with Toddy Thomas Middle School from Fortuna. And actually sitting to my right is actually the district director for Caltrans District 1 in Eureka, and he's here to specifically root on Toddy Thomas Middle School in Fortuna. And for those of you on the East Coast, Fortuna is in the north coast of California. Their teacher, Crystal Fennell. Their Caltrans engineering mentor is Sherry Rodriguez, and their sponsor is Matthew Philp from Caltrans District 1. So welcome to that class, and also good luck to your students. We also have a class from Frick Middle School, which is in Oakland, California, participating. Their teacher, Tyree Bell, and their Caltrans mentor is Brian Rowley. And they are sponsored by Alfonso Miles from Caltrans District 4. So I want to welcome them and wish them good luck in the competition. Also from Oakland is the team from Urban Promise Academy. And their teacher is Nora Hurab. And their Caltrans mentor, again, is Brian Rowley. And their sponsor is Alfonso Miles from Caltrans District 4. So welcome to that group. Thank you to the teachers and sponsors. And good luck to the students from Urban Promise Academy. And then from Murata Middle School in Stockton, their teacher is Michael Hurst, and their Caltrans mentors are Benjamin Elliott and Jasmine Noriega and Dominic Vital. And they are sponsored by Araceli Oropeza, and they are from Caltrans District 10 in Stockton. So again, thank you to the sponsors and mentors and teachers, and good luck to those students in the competition. And finally, we have a team from Shepherd Middle School in San Jose, and I see them sitting next to Dr. Philbrick, their teacher, Michael Kretsch, and they are sponsored by Brandy Childress from the Valley Transportation Authority. So welcome to all of you, and good luck to you in the competition as well. And thank you for all participating in this effort. And as was described earlier by Dr. Philbrick, it is a very worthy effort, and I congratulate MTI on putting it on. So, Dr. Philbrick, thank you very much for having me once again, and I'll turn it back to you.
And thank you for your valuable time today, Malcolm. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Now, on to the competition. Let's talk about a few rules of engagement. Each team will have a maximum of 10 minutes to make their presentation. We have 3 anonymous judges who are from independent organizations. They do not represent any of the sponsor organizations for this year's team. Your presentations will be judged on a number of items, not the least of which is teamwork, presentation quality, clarity, and the actual concept that you're presenting. We're going to invite teams to present at random order, and after each presentation, the other 7 teams will have the opportunity to ask one question. Students can receive up to 1 extra credit point based on the quality of their presentation and the quality of their response. So let's turn now to our first team. Gaithersburg, let's take it away with grade 8.
Dr. Philbrick, this is Pamela. I'm sorry. I just wanted to correct something. The teacher for the program is Virginia Pantella, and Mr. Miller is the chaperone. I just needed to clarify that. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Pera. I am here with my peers Michael Erb, Alexandra Lamb, Aaron Schwartz, and Andre Sanchez. We are here today to represent Gaithersburg Middle School and are going to share with you our idea for sustainable transportation.
The lack of renewable transportation is not just happening here, it's all over the world. If we want to solve this issue, we need to start here. But although we thought we've done well enough solving this issue, we have not. As of 2015, only 3.5 million hybrid cars and 260,000 electric cars were on the road in the U.S., and it's our mission to increase those numbers. We propose to use wind farms and their energy to operate and dispense clean energy to service stations. The wind farms would be in areas where they would receive the most wind, and that energy would be distributed to their corresponding service stations. Furthermore, we propose to create a hybrid car that will run on our energy.
This idea comes with its benefits too. The benefits include that the idea is green, helpful to the environment, creates jobs, promotes the use of electric and hybrid cars, continuous, reliable, and plenty more. The plan would be available to most people and is not too expensive as it may seem. An average citizen could afford to switch to a hybrid car or electric car, as these cars sometimes cost less than gas cars, and a kilowatt hour would cost 12 cents. If the hybrid car switches to the gas fuel, it will not cause as much damage than expected, as when the hybrid car has switched to gas, there will be a notification to charge their car.
Our design is actually quite simple. The wind farms would power a nearby service station, which would use the power to charge the green portion of the hybrid car. We would use Darius wind turbines because of its structure, benefits, and more. The mileage of our hybrid car would be about 300 miles, and about 225 of those miles would come from wind energy. If you drive the average amount of 37 miles per day, it would take about a minute or so to fully charge the green portion of the hybrid car. If the green portion of your hybrid car was empty, it would take about 6 or more minutes to fill up. And as for the other 75 miles, since they're running on gasoline, it would fill at average gasoline fill time.
The economical cost isn't going to be that expensive. It would take 18 turbines to power enough cars at a service station that has high traffic. If every service station in America had 18 turbines, then the cost would be around $240 billion, including the modifications to the service station. Also, on average, the cost of 1 kilowatt of the wind energy at a station would be 12 cents. Also, each hybrid car would cost around $20,000. There would be little environmental costs if our plan was put into effect. The wind turbines will generate clean energy and will be able to be placed almost anywhere. However, the turbines can potentially hurt the flying animals, which is why we will place the turbines in places with a decent amount of wind and a low population of flying animals.
The trickiest part of this idea is the funding. The majority of funding would come from the 6% taxes that we would implement to cities that would like to switch to greener energy. To get this idea going, we will give the job of modifying the service stations and placing the wind farms to the state and local governments, and the job of collecting taxes to the federal government. We would set up fundraisers on Kickstarter and other fundraising sites as well. Ads on YouTube are 10 to 30 cents per view, making a 30-second ad on YouTube very reliable. Radio stations run 24/7, and most people listen to the radio. Therefore, we plan to set up ads during the hours in which most people listen to the radio, which are 6 to 8 a.m., 12 noon to 2 p.m., and 5 to 7 p.m. If we're in need of money, we will withdraw out loans from the bank, but that most likely will not happen.
People may ask us, why should cities and towns switch? If cities and towns switch to our great plan, they'll save money by not as paying much for oil and gas for cars. Wind energy is continuous and reliable, thus an excellent source of energy that will save the environment and last for as long as the sun does. And our hybrid car keeps a balance between renewable and non-renewable energy. Additionally, if war breaks out with another country, our economy won't be as affected, as wind could not be bought from other countries like oil can.
It will be difficult getting service stations and people to collaborate with us. Therefore, we would like to partner with big brands in places like Starbucks to make it worthwhile to go to service stations. Since people usually take a long time to shop or do other activities in malls, it would be a perfect opportunity to charge their car during the time. And for that reason, we would also like to put the charging stations at malls or grocery stores so people could charge their car while shopping. As putting service stations at mall or stores etiquette may negatively impact service stations, as fewer people would see the need to drive out to go to individual service stations. We plan to have partial of the energy tanks be non-renewable, making them more worthwhile to go to. We as well plan to give 25% of our revenue to service stations in general.
As for the conflict with oil companies, we've got that covered too. Since we plan on converting gas stations to our service stations, we need to be able to get on oil companies' good sides. To do this, we have made a compromise. Our compromise is to have at least 25% of the hybrid car run on gasoline, while the other 75% will use wind energy, as told before with our hybrid car suggestion. To add to the deal, we would give oil companies 3% of our revenue to make sure they are satisfied with the deal. And as mentioned before, our plan of having a portion of the service stations be non-renewable, that would hopefully seal the deal with oil companies.
Did you know that Ben Cardin, Senator of Maryland, supports our idea? He believes our idea has real potential and will help alleviate the effects of climate change. He said, "We need innovative ideas to meet our nation's energy needs, and your proposal can help us move towards that effort."
We would like to thank you for listening to our presentation and are open to any questions that you may have.
Very well done. Thank you. We'll take the first question from Toddy Thomas Middle School's second team.
Will your idea generate more or less energy than fossil fuels?
It will generate more energy than fossil fuels.
Okay, thank you for that question and answer. Shepherd Middle School here in San Jose, you're up for asking the next question.
What if it's not really sunny day, and what if it's a really sunny day and it's not really windy? What will happen?
Place the wind turbines in places that have enough wind to generate service stations or generate power to service stations, even if they're far away. We plan to store the energy as well to distribute later on during hours where the service stations are closed.
Thank you. Murata Middle School in District 10, do you have a question?
Hello, my name is Tristan, and if it's form of wind, what if the place you put the wind farm doesn't get a lot of wind blowing, pushes it? What if the wind farm doesn't get any wind?
Well, we plan to put it in places where there are already wind farms ready, such as Great Plains, the Appalachian Mountains. These places where it will generate enough wind to distribute to a lot of service stations.
Very good. A lot of interest in that particular question. Frick Middle School in Oakland, California.
How many jobs will be lost in gasoline industry?
Just about as many as will be made from the wind turbines. There is not much need for like oil derricks, although there's supervision. There is as much handiwork and refixing up as much as needed as for wind turbines. They're easier to fix and they're not as dangerous, therefore creating just about as many jobs as there might be lost. And it could be easy for people who are in the oil and gas companies to switch over to electric companies, and people might see that as a good way to get another job.
Very good. Frick Middle School, also in District 4, do you have a question?
Does any type of machinery put CO2 in the air?
We have chosen Darius wind turbines because of their structure. It's able to catch wind and generate power no matter what direction the wind is going, as opposed to the old-fashioned windmills that can only catch wind in one direction.
Very good.
But
okay.
It depends, because it depends what type of material we will buy, because some might emit CO2 while others might not.
Okay, thank you. Toddy Thomas Middle School, Team 1, you're up for the next question.
Hi, my name is Kendall Stewart. How much space will your idea need to allow for?
It will just take about as much as there is now for wind turbines. With the Darius wind turbines, they won't take up too much space, but they will generate more energy than the normal and conventional wind turbines. And the space that is currently being used for standard or traditional wind turbines, they can just be either added onto, or the space can just be large or increased to make room for the Darius wind turbines.
Thank you. Urban Promise Academy, back to Caltrans District 4.
Oh, Dr. Philbrick, both of the teams in District 4 have already asked the question.
Oh, okay. Thank you for notifying us.
Thank you.
Gaithersburg Middle School, 7th grade. Do you have a question for your 8th grade counterparts?
Where did you get your information and numbers for the hybrid car on slide 2?
Well, we got our numbers from various websites, and we did a lot of research into the numbers we put on.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very fine presentation and excellent question and answer period. We appreciate your hard work in putting together your presentation for us to enjoy today. Thank you. Okay, our second presentation today will be given by Toddy Thomas Middle School. The second team joining us from Fortuna, California in Caltrans District 1.
Our idea for a renewable energy source is APR, Artificial Pipe River, by Colin Stockwell,
Luke McCrigler,
Sergio Marquez,
and Caden Bertain. Our goal is to create a new renewable energy source using hydropower and also increase the percentage of produced hydropower in the next decade. How it works. A pipe will be placed under the ocean. The pipe will go on for about a mile or so. The water turns wheels in the pipe to produce energy. The water is pushed out of the pipe by many walls, and then the water is pushed back up to the top on land. Then the water goes into a concrete riverbed where it turns more wheels to produce more energy. The water then flows from the concrete riverbed back to the ocean. Our diagram. To help you understand it better, we have a diagram. Step 1. Water runs down and fills up the pipe from the door opening on the bottom of the ocean. Step 2. Walls push in and push the water back up to the surface, making even more energy. Step 3. Water up on the surface runs back into the ocean in a concrete river with more wheels turning to create more energy. Step 4. The water is back in the ocean and the cycle starts again.
Building. The pipes underground should be strong enough to maintain a continual flow of water and should be made of a tough, corrosion-resistant metal, preferably steel. We will have a digging site that has a hole going straight down, and we will then dig out a tunnel and install the pipes. Efficiency. The hydropower plant will mostly run on itself. We will calculate how long it will take for the water to go through one cycle and set a precise timer on the wall in the bottom of the ocean that will open every time the time for the cycle ends. Let's say it takes 2 minutes for one cycle to end. The timer would set the wall to open every 2 minutes. This would allow the power plant to have less workers. The other option is we could have sensors in the pipe to tell us when all the water is out of the pipes.
Fossil fuels versus hydropower. Gas of fossil fuels only uses about 60% of the available energy and produces lots of carbon dioxide during the process of making. Hydropower plants produce 90% of the available energy and produce hardly any carbon dioxide in the process.
Some of the pros and cons of general hydropower. Some of the pros are it's renewable. We'll never run out of ocean water. It has no pollution. It doesn't cause pollution. It's also safe. It speaks for itself. There are hardly any accidents, unlike other power plants. Some of the cons are it disrupts the environment, such as salmon spawning and other underwater things. It's expensive. Hydropower is still expensive, but not as much as fossil fuels or natural gases. And droughts. Dams can cause droughts in rivers. But our idea won't cause droughts since we're using ocean water.
Some statistics. In 2014, 2.6% of energy consumption was with some form of hydropower. We hope this percentage will grow along with other renewable energies such as solar power and wind power. Layton's terms. Our goal is to make a new type of hydropower plant that takes the carbon footprint out and mass produce these types of power plants, and then put the energy made into electric cars.
How our idea is practical. Our idea is practical because it has less cons than regular hydropower. We are also taking out the carbon footprint of electric cars by converting our hydropower energy into batteries. The hydropower plant would not require much management and would have an estimated cost of 40% the cost of fossil fuel plants and 25% the cost of natural gases. Who it affects. Our idea will affect the fish and sea life that are caught within the boundaries of the APR. If the sea life are caught within the pipes, they will eventually exit out the end of the pipe. We will have sensors in the pipes, and if it detects an object other than water, it will shoot it out into another pipe. It would also potentially affect fishermen. Fishermen might not be able to fish there due to affecting how the power plant works. This is very minor though. It would take up a large amount of space also, thus affecting the environment. This is also very minor. Conclusion. We are way too dependent on natural gases in this country, and most of the world is also. We hope that this idea is good enough to inspire people to make more hydropower plants in this country, and to raise the percentage of energy made with hydropower significantly. We have to use ocean water somehow to produce energy.
Thank you very much for that fine presentation. The first question for your team will come from Shepherd Middle School here in San Jose, California.
Hi, my name is Nevaeh, and I was wondering, when you said the pipe, if it detects anything but water, does that mean if a fish gets caught into it and you shoot it into another pipe, will that be harming it?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. We'll make it so it won't get hurt.
Put some safeguards in there. Sounds good. Murata Middle School, Caltrans District 10. You're up for your question.
Hi, my name is Rosalind. Hydropower is only near oceans, not in the middle of the nation. How will the power get there?
We'll have wires to transport the energy and other things to transport the energy. Like batteries.
Thank you. Frick Middle School, do you have a question for our presenting team?
Not this time.
Oh. Let's move on then to Toddy Thomas Middle School first team. Do you have a question?
Hi, I'm Isabella Anderson. How are you going to build your power plant in the ocean without the ocean impacting the building process?
We will build a temporary coffer dam that will block the water flow.
Good answer. Thank you. Urban Promise Academy, do you have a question for our presenting team?
How much would it cost to use a PR?
Roughly a few $1,000,000, but it requires less money than fossil fuels or natural gases power plants.
Gaithersburg Grade 7, do you have a question?
How much space will be needed to go through with your idea?
Couple 100 square feet. And the pipe will go on for about a mile.
Also from Gaithersburg, do we have a question from grade 8?
How much power will be generated from each dam?
We're not sure, but likely a lot.
Very good. Well, we thank you for your fine presentation. I'd like all of the students, sponsors, mentors, and teachers to join me in congratulating this fine team. Our next presentation will come right from San Jose from Shepherd Middle School. Take it away, students.
Hello, everyone. We are Alice Academy from Shepherd Middle School. My name is AJ Loxa, and to my right are my fellow teammates, Daniela Acosta, Nevaeh Avila, and Jillian Alberca. First of all, we would like to thank the Mineta Transportation Institute for the opportunity, and we would also like to thank the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority for being our sponsor. When my teammates and I thought about a sustainable transportation solution, we wanted it to benefit a group of people who needed an immediate fix to a problem. We have experienced congestion around our school campus and safety hazards when school lets out for the day, and we thought there had to be a way to reduce the number of cars in the area. After some research, we came up with a solution to meet the 4 goals we were trying to achieve. Our following presentation will share these goals and a solution to the problem we identified. Then we will open it up to our peers for questions. Now let me introduce my teammate Daniela, who will speak the problem we identified. Thank you, AJ. Like most middle schools, there is a lot of traffic at the beginning and end of school day when parents are picking up their children from school. There is a mix of cars and students either walking or biking. We quickly identified 3 problems. 1, too much congestion around our school, which is both unsafe and bad for the environment. It's unsafe because there are too many fast or distracted drivers, and there are distracted students not listening to crossing rules. It's bad for the environment because cars are idling while parents are waiting for their children to get out of school. Each day, Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of gasoline voluntarily idling their cars. In New York alone, idling cars and trucks produce 130,000 tons of carbon dioxide each year. 2, we spoke to our fellow students. We learned that existing public transit isn't always an option because even though there is a bus stop in front of where they may live, it doesn't go where they need it to, like school. 3, we also found that there are many students who live in the same area and try to walk together, but there's always one that ends up walking alone. To share more information about our research, I'd like to introduce my teammate, Nevaeh.
Thank you, Daniela. After we saw this problem with our eyes, we wanted to get a better understanding of the statistics. Shepherd Middle School has approximately 750 students, grades 6 through 8. School let out at 3 p.m. time, which is when traffic is the heaviest. In our findings, more than 50% of the students are picked up, then the others walk or ride bikes. We also made another interesting discovery, which is loss of productivity. For those students who are not immediately picked up from school, we have to wait for their ride. They have to wait for their ride. This can be anywhere from 30 to 2 hours pickup after school. I can speak for this situation. I'm the oldest out of 6 siblings, and all my sisters get out around 5:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. And due to my parents' work schedule, I spend 60 to 90 minutes before and after school, which this is like 2 to 3 hours a day that I spend at school outside of class, not being productive with my time. I could be home earlier, spending time on my homework or chores, or simply getting to spend more time with my family. I could walk to school, but I live 2 miles away and don't want to walk alone due to the predicament in our community. This situation is common at my school, and I'm not the only one who can relate. Now I will turn it over to my teammate Jillian, who will now explain the goals we want to achieve to solve this problem we have identified.
Thank you, Nevaeh. The solution we came up with aimed to meet the following 4 goals. Number 1, reduce car traffic by 50% while also reducing harmful carbon emissions. Number 2, improve safety and air quality around our school from drop-off and pick-up duty. Number 4, give students an option to get home early and or not have to walk home alone. We decided that our solution would incorporate technology and ride-sharing concept that we have seen working. When it comes to giving people options in travel. Now my teammate AJ will present to you our concept.
Thank you, Jillian. Our solution to reduce congestion and carbon emissions is to increase the number of students per pickup trip through a ride-sharing service powered by a mobile app. A mobile app which we called Stuber, the Uber for students. How it works for parent drivers is that parents would have to sign up to become a driver and complete a background check, be 21 and over, and show proof of current license, registration, and insurance. The idea is that these parents are already volunteering to pick up their child, so adding 1 or 2 more to their trip would meet our goals. To encourage parents to sign up as drivers, they could accumulate points for rewards like gas cards, groceries, and public transit passes. Here's how it works for students. Students will download the free app, and each student would have an active account based on their school ID. A student can, Uber works for both scheduled and on-demand trips. A student can reserve a ride for later that day, or if it's a last-minute change in parent pickup, the student can check to see available driver. The app tells them the wait time and where the pickup location is. Once the driver arrives, the driver will scan the student ID to check in the student. This will activate the notification for parents or guardians of the student being picked up and help monitor their travel. Once the student arrives to his or her location, another notification will be sent to parent or guardian. To develop the app, we will work with the volunteer-based organization Code for San Jose to help us develop the app at no cost. Code for San Jose is a local branch for Code for America who is made up of all volunteers who give their time for free to help these kind of causes.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our idea. We believe that Stuber, the rideshare service for students, will help reduce traffic congestions around our school and reduce harmful carbon emissions in our environment. We also believe this will allow students to get home sooner and be more productive with schoolwork and home chores. Parents to have one less thing to do and worry about, and encourage parents who already drop off and pick up the children to take a few more students along for the ride, while giving something they could use in return.
And if there's any parents in the audience or even kids, think about how your parents may have to stop what they're doing and go get you or your younger siblings. And for parents to think about how you have to drop what you're doing and make sure you go get your kids.
Now, we would like to open the floor up to our peers for questions. Thank you.
And thank you. Our first question will be from Murata Middle School.
My name is Tristan. I'd like to ask a question. What would you do if students didn't have phones? Like some students didn't have phones.
They didn't have phones. They didn't. Yeah. If students didn't have phones, then we would try to operate it through a website, because we know most schools have laptop carts which they can be open to use, and some teachers stay after school so they can easily use it through a website.
Okay, thank you very much. Frick Middle School, do you have a question?
So much financial.
How will you get the rewards paid for if it's a free application?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
How will you get the rewards paid for if it's a free application?
Group together, just like they do.
We plan to pursue a state-funded grant through the Safe Routes to School program, or perhaps look at starting a GoFundMe account.
Thank you. Toddy Thomas Middle School, first team, do you have a question for Shepherd?
My name is Jenna Lewis, and how much fossil fuels do you save?
What?
We don't know exactly how much, but it would be a good amount, so probably like half.
Okay. Urban Promise Academy, do you have a question?
How can you use this idea in other places besides school? We would have to see if it would work here, and then if it's like a really good idea, we could think about expanding it to different parts in the world or in the United States.
And also, this we created it for students specifically, since there's Uber and Lyft as such for adults, and so why not there be one for students to get home safer and easy,
and for free,
quicker? Yeah.
Okay. Gaithersburg, grade 7, joining us from Washington, D.C. Your turn for a question.
How is this creating a sustainable transportation solution?
This would help create a sustainable transportation because it's helping parents, it's actually helping the environment get less cars off the road, which will save just gas and pollution in the air.
Less idling.
And less idling.
Of course.
Gaithersburg, grade 8, you're up.
What is your advertisement campaign?
Advertising campaign. Or can you repeat the question?
The question was, what is your advertising campaign?
That is all through the process, which we are working on, and yeah, so we're doing a process of it, and hopefully get to a really good advertising one.
Okay, so it's a work in progress.
Yes.
Toddy Thomas Middle School second team, you have the last question.
My name is Sergio Marquez, and how is your idea sustainable?
Yes, I believe we've had that question, but if you'd like to offer the answer, please do so.
We would make it sustainable because we are getting less cars off the road and less idling of parents waiting for their children.
Well, thank you very much. Another fine presentation. Please join me in thanking Shepherd Middle School for their hard work. Our next presenting team will be our students from Murata Middle School, joining us in Stockton, Caltrans District 10.
Hello, we are representing Murata Middle School for this year's Garrett Morgan Sustainable Transportation Competition. My name is Tristan Bustios-Hawk. I'm the Director of Operations. For our project, the Great Stomp Biofuel Project, we will begin with the members that will explain our presentation will introduce themselves.
I am Axel, agricultural analyst for this project.
I am Peter Lau, the biofuel engineer for our project.
I am Rosa Munoz, the logistics and distribution technician for the Grape Stomp Biofuel Project.
I am Hamid Khan, the financial analyst of our project.
I am Harneet Bata, the environmentalist for our project.
In order to determine how our project could address the global problems of dwindling non-renewable fuel sources, pollution caused by burning fossil fuels, and finally the concern involving transportation in the future, our class decided to develop a fuel from local available biomass. The goals we established were: our fuel source would be made from waste or nuisance biomass. There must be no negative impacts on the environment. It must be sustainable and renewable. Since our school is located in an agricultural region, it was logical to look at the industry for sources. It didn't take us long to realize a source was practically right outside our door: wine grapes. Thus our project was born, the Grape Stomp Biofuel Project. To explain why we chose the wine industry and how it produces biomass, here is our agricultural analysis. Alex.
Thank you, Tristan. Lodi in the Stockton area is located in the center of the fertile Central Valley of California. Next to the delta, the rich alluvial soil and cool evening breezes make the Lodi appellation of America viniculture area famous for fine grapes. In fact, last year the Lodi AVA produced 670,000 tons from 110,000 acres in over 100 varieties. Next slide. All those grapes produce a lot of waste. The stems, seeds, and skins are called pumice. It's either shipped off to the landfills or left to compost, releasing the worst greenhouse gas, methane. During decomposition, our research told us it would make an excellent feedstock for our biofuel production. The pumice would only be available during harvest, so we found other major crops that produce waste biomass, like cherry tree prunings, almond tree prunings and hulls, vine prunings, and even water hyacinth. Hyacinth is a troublesome and non-native invasive aquatic plant that is rapidly taking over delta waterways. All these are excellent cellulosic feedstock and are abundant in our San Joaquin County. To tell you how we would use these biomass sources, here is our biofuel technician, Peter.
Thank you, Alex. Our feedstock must be processed into ethanol. To reduce travel miles and, of course, fuel and emissions, our fleet of biofuel-powered trucks would bring our feedstock to a centrally located production facility. Ideally, it would be between the two major highways running throughout the Central Valley, Interstate 5 and Highway 99. Once at the biorefinery, the process is similar for each kind of feedstock. The steps after delivery are: the feedstock is shredded, heated, and pre-treated with different kinds of chemicals depending on which kind. This allows cellulose to be broken down by enzymes. Enzymes change cellulose into sugars. The sugars are fermented into ethanol by microbes. The ethanol is distilled and purified. It is ready to be mixed with unleaded gasoline. There are residual materials left after production, and they can be sold also. Byproducts are livestock feed, which can be used by local dairies, and fertilizer available to the vineyards and farmers to improve yield. Our research has shown that biorefinery can expect a yield of 40 liters of ethanol for every ton of pumice refined. In 2015, 670,000 tons of grapes were harvested. From that amount, there was 20% grape skins, seeds, and stems or pumice. using research stating expected ethanol produced 1 ton equals 40 liters. Then 134,000 tons would produce 5,400,000 liters of ethanol. Converted to gallons, that would be 1,426,684 gallons of ethanol. If mixed with gasoline for the common E85 flex fuel, that amount makes 1,640,687 gallons of fuel. While we will not exclusively use pumice as a feedstock, we can expect similar results from other cellulosic biomass. Now that we have made our biofuel, how can we use it? To answer that question, let me hand it over to Rosalind, our distribution and logistics manager.
Next slide, please. As stated previously, our biorefinery would be situated between two major highways. From a practical viewpoint, this would allow transportation of feedstock and delivery of fuel more convenient and safe. Our biofuel-powered trucks could follow routes that would not take them on surface streets or residential areas, but use highways. Also, our biofuel would be delivered to the farms and vineyards, which would keep farm equipment off the roads and in the fields. This makes travel safer for drivers throughout the area. Finally, our research has shown that 75% of flex fuel vehicles are not using biofuel. To encourage owners of these vehicles to buy our biofuel, we would conveniently locate filling stations next to these highways so commuters would not be inconvenienced or have to travel long distances to find their biofuel. Our goal is to distribute our biofuel so it is convenient to use, keep traffic congestion to a minimum, and make area roads safer. Now our financial analyst, Hamid, will talk about some financial issues of our project.
Thank you, Rosalind. Next slide. While this project is exciting and necessary, it won't happen without money. Lodi Appalachian vintners have always been progressive in the industry and model for the rest of the world how to grow sustainably. We feel that by forming a cooperative and partnering with the biofuel industry, our biorefinery could be feasible. With over 100 wineries and 750 growers within the Appalachian, our project's cost could be distributed among enough companies to make it an affordable alternative to traditional fueling. Biofuel companies would be able to take the risk to provide the capital to finish our project's facilities. Local economy would benefit by the creation of new jobs. In exchange for their investments, wineries would receive disposal services of unwanted biomass, a stable source of fuel that is regulated by their governing cooperative and further ensure the sustainability of their crops. To explain how all this relates to our environment, Harneet will talk about the impact of the project.
Thank you, Hamid. Perhaps the most encouraging part of our project is the negative impact it has on our environment. Next slide. As you can see, the Central Valley is a geographical trap of stagnant air. Our biofuel will produce lower carbon dioxide emissions from vehicles, improving the air quality. Also, by using the pumice as feedstock, there will be less methane released into the atmosphere during the decomposition of composting the pumice. Next slide. The best aspect of our project is it is sustainable. By being good stewards of the land, only using waste cellulosic biomass, and promoting biofuel-powered farm equipment and transportation, our project will considerably lower the carbon footprint of grape cultivation. The first grapes were planted here over 150 years ago. There is no reason to suspect cultivation will not continue to grow. The red circle indicates where the advantage of using biomass has overgrain as a feedstock for ethanol production. Because no plants are cut down, they continue to consume carbon dioxide, cleaning the atmosphere. Using biofuel to power farm equipment keeps emissions to a minimum. Next slide. One final point we considered was trying to meet government-mandated standards. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has set standards to gradually increase the amount of bioethanol and exclusively cellulosic biofuel. Our project will help meet or exceed these standards. Let's turn to Tristan, our Director of Operations, for some final comments.
Thank you, Harneet. As we have shown, our Grape Stomp Biofuel Project creates a fuel that encourages sustainable transportation habits, is renewable as spring, fall, and winter, and lightens our carbon footprint. In our agricultural region, we hope our project can improve the way of life in our community and prove to be a model of sustainability for others. We thank you for listening to our presentation and believe it is never too soon to plan for the future. We know that we must make every effort to change our world one region at a time. Please feel free to ask any questions.
Well, thank you very much. And with that invitation, we'll turn to Frick Middle School for the first question. Does Frick Middle School have a question for our presenting team?
Why did you pick this presentation?
Because it's waste product. It's a sustainable waste.
And it's a waste material. It's a waste material.
It's a waste material.
It's a sustainable biofuel that we can make locally.
Thank you. Toddy Thomas Middle School, first team.
I'm Gracie Betts. And will this idea put other forms of pollution back into the environment?
No, because it will be.
No, the idea will reduce pollution.
It causes less carbon emission.
Because it causes less carbon emission.
Thank you very much. Urban Promise Academy, do you have a question for our presenting team?
Since California is in a drought, how would that allow the grapes to grow?
Oh. You got the car right now.
The climate is perfect.
The climate is perfect. We checked both. We've seen this year in 2015 and 2014, and the only thing was is that it cost only 1,000.
You answer it.
No, because you got the car. I don't know the numbers.
The climate is perfect. Yeah. The climate is perfect.
Well, since we live in the Central Valley, we have perfect climate and rain.
What else?
Okay, thank you. Gaithersburg, grade 7.
How would you access this?
Can you please repeat the question?
The question was, how would you access
this? Yes. Yes.
Between two houses. There's going to be
By collecting the grape pumice from the wineries.
Okay. Gaithersburg, grade 8, do you have a follow-on question for our presenting team?
How could this plan be incorporated in cities like New York City that don't have much crops?
Oh my god. It could be shipped.
It could be shipped there.
It could be shipped there by nearby places.
More facilities.
Okay. Toddy Thomas, second team, joining us in Eureka. Do you have a question?
Yeah. I'm Colin, and will your idea produce enough energy fast enough to fuel a large amount of cars?
Yes.
Yes, because we have multiple sustainable sources.
And finally, our last question from Murata Middle School, coming from Shepherd here in San Jose.
Hi, I'm Nevaeh from Shepherd, and we would like to know, the other team had asked about the whole New York situation. We would like to know, how would you get the money to ship it to them?
We'll place the facility closer to those big cities, so we don't have to waste money on transportation.
Very good. Well, we thank you for your well-formulated presentation and for your time today. Please join me in congratulating our Murata team. Next up for the presentation is Frick Middle School.
Is there any way I can get it? This is Lydia Mercado, and I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Lydia.
We cannot see the presentations in Washington, D.C., and we wanted to know if you guys saw the presentations from Gaithersburg Middle School.
Yes, we did.
We're not able to see any presentations. They're not transmitting, so could you let the Caltrans know that?
Yes, indeed. I am confirming that we did see the Gaithersburg presentation, and I'm also confirming that we are getting somebody to contact Caltrans now. And Lydia, can you see our faces?
Yes, we can see you. We can see the teams, but we can hear well, but we cannot see the presentations.
We'll get to work on that immediately. Thank you for notifying us. And by way of background, Shepherd Middle School did not have a PowerPoint, so that would be one of the reasons you did not see something on your screen during their presentation. Okay, are we all set for Frick Middle School? Frick Middle School, are you live?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. We're ready for your presentation.
Press the button. I did.
Say what you gotta say.
Oh, my name is Luis.
We can hear you.
My name is Luis, along with my my leader of the group, team members Solon Ingram, Melissa Andrade, Jesus Tovar, Julio Felipe, and me, of course. Now, who are we? We are a group composed of 6th graders participating. Participating in a science project. Our goal is to find a way to lessen the pollution on Earth. We've come up with our own idea to help the problem of everyday pollution. We are going to introduce our idea, and later we are going to state out why our invention is good and also say out the pros in our project later on.
Go Jesus. Pollution. Pollution makes up for 65% of the deaths in total. The other 35% is probably natural causes or murder, etc. Eventually, this number could possibly increase in an alarming rate. It is responsible for the greenhouse effect. One effect is making the Earth temperature hotter than it already should be, which is unnecessary. The human species especially have the fault. For example, did you know that 25% of the cars make 90% of the pollution that we breathe?
Beta bike. Idea. When a person is riding the bike, the pedals will charge the battery, and the engine gear is located in the middle of the bike. The engine will be hidden with a piece of secure metal or plastic that will be durable to last years of use. Also, the engine will be connected to a button on top of the handlebars. When pressed, it will move using the energy from the pedals. It will also come with an app for a phone. The app will let the user know how many calories they are burning. It will also let the owner know when the bike is getting moved. It also has the option to call the police if being moved without. All right. Bike helmet. My team members and I are working on a helmet that will look good and protect the user of the bike. The helmet is going to basically be an airbag for the bike. Keep in mind that the bike is still in the beta phase. The helmet will be an inflatable helmet that can be hidden with a scarf, so it won't interfere with fashion. It will also come with a built-in lights to let the rider to see when it's too dark to see at night. It will also have lights on the back that will let drivers know where you are.
Pros. The pros are it benefits the environment, helps with exercise, part of the bike uses recycled materials, for example, scrap metal, steel, iron, rubber, etc.
This is a map of the San Francisco Bay Area. There are tens of thousands of people who commute to San Francisco each day. The worst commute in the Bay Area is on Highway 4 from Discovery Bay to San Francisco. Without traffic, the commute is 1 hour and 19 minutes. During rush hour, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's a 5 hour and 30-minute drive each day. The solution to this problem, we have decided that a battery powered ferry with the electric bike will eliminate all of the environmental and health issues. The ferry will be powered by batteries, so there will be no harmful chemicals that will go in the air. The ferry will offer healthy snacks, Wi-Fi, so people can work on their career items as they ride the ferry to work. The ferry ride will be 2 hours long.
Fossil fuels are a limited source for energy. Fossil fuels will eventually run out in our time and era. We've been using them for a very long time. We depend on fossil fuels 84% of the time, running most cars, homes, and other types of structures. We are also conducting a lot of pollution to the environment. So it would be wise switching over to our invention as a reminder that we are running out of resources or energy for everyday life.
Non-renewable versus renewable sources. Non-renewable sources: oil, natural gas, coal, limestone, phosphate, petroleum. Renewable sources: sunlight, fresh water, leather, wood, paper, and lightning.
Pollution causes a lot of health issues such as cancer, asthma, etc. People who commute long hours have decreased lung health. The burning of fossil fuels and the release of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are causing Earth to become warmer. People with longer commutes have less time to exercise, so weight gain, high blood pressure, and cholesterol are a problem.
Thank you for watching our presentation. We want to thank Caltrans for letting us have this amazing experience, and thanking our teacher, Ms. Bell.
Very nice. Thank you. We also join you in thanking Caltrans and your teacher, Ms. Bell, and all the other teachers who are joining us today. Let's take our first question from Toddy Thomas Middle School's first team.
I'm Kendall Stewart, and how will you travel long distances on the bike?
The bike will have, when you ride the bike, when you move the pedals, it will charge the battery. And if you get tired while riding the bike, you can press the button, and the bike will move on its own, basically. And if you get in a situation where you have to stop, you can press the throttles and stop the bike.
Thank you for your response. Urban Promise Academy in Oakland, California. Do you have a question?
Will this be bad for people's health if they breathe in bad air?
Question.
Will this be bad for people's health if they breathe in bad air?
Bad air?
Yes, if they breathe in the air.
So to repeat, the question was, will this be bad for people's health if they breathe in bad air?
Yes, it will.
The bike is not making anything bad for the air.
Yeah.
All right. Gaithersburg Middle School, grade 7. Do you have a question for our presenting team?
How much will it cost to make the bike, app, helmet, and ferry?
To make the bike, we will have to use a lot of resources. So, making a hypothesis, it would probably be for the battery itself would probably be about $500. To make the bike itself, it would probably cost to maybe $900 to $1,000. For the ferry, it would make an hypothesis. It would probably cost about $1 million to make, including the battery. Oh, and the helmets, it is going to probably cost maybe about, to make one, it would probably cost about $100.
Okay. Gaithersburg, grade 8. We're ready for your question.
How could this bike work for families or people with babies and small children?
The bike will have hinges for the back end, which can eventually we can make products for the bike. Like we can make a cradle, like a safety for babies, and we can also add for families. We can also add like a little monitor to see if we
make the bike longer?
Yes.
2-seater or something?
We'll probably in the future make the bike longer, which includes 2 seats on it.
Okay. Toddy Thomas Middle School, second team, do you have a question?
My name is Caden, and how do you plan to get the money to fund your idea?
We'll make a Kickstarter.
Say it.
We'll make a Kickstarter.
We'll make a Kickstarter page, and eventually people will see how good that the bike will like eliminate pollution. So most people would donate to the Kickstarter, and that's how we'll make the bikes and the batteries.
Very good. Shepherd Middle School, do you have a question?
Hi, my name is Daniela, and we wanted to ask what inspired you to make or design the ferry and the bike?
Well, in our community, I've seen a lot of bikes that are controlled by gas and oil because they have engines. Well, I've been thinking that those kinds of bikes make a lot of pollution. So me and my group made we made a brainstorm on how we can eliminate that gas coming from the bikes. So we made a bike running on energy, electricity.
Okay, very good. And the last question for you today will come from Murata Middle School.
How much will it cost if the bike breaks, and how much will it repair cost?
The bike will probably come with insurance. So if it does break down, then you can send it back and fix it. But guessing on how much it would cost to fix it, I would probably, for the brakes, I would probably say maybe about $200 or $300.
Okay. Well, please join me in thanking Frick Middle School for a fine presentation and an innovative idea. Thank you. And Lydia, just an update. We have called Caltrans, and they are working on the issue. Let's turn now to our next presenting team. We've got Toddy Thomas Middle School, the first team, joining us from Caltrans District 1.
Title is Floating Through Your Fuel. I'm Kendall Stewart.
I'm Jenna Lewis.
I'm Isabella Anderson.
And I'm Gracie Betts.
What is our objective? Our objective is to power a cargo ship using a hydrogen fuel cell to convert salt water into a fuel source. How will we achieve our objective? We will achieve our objective by using a hydrogen fuel cell. The hydrogen fuel cell separates the oxygen and hydrogen in the water and salt. But The extra hot water from the process will be shot out from the top of a tube. This tube is located on the back of a cargo ship. The tube sits upright so that the water has time to cool down before it goes back into the ocean. This will help not to pollute.
We can also achieve our objective by having some of the hot water would be also saved for sanitary needs. Extra salt will be sold to manufacturers. The manufacturers would produce salt licks or table salt for cooking. How does this work? A fuel cell separates hydrogen and oxygen in the salt water. This separation causes a genetic pulse. A fuel cell consists of two electrodes, an electrolyte, a catalyst, and an electrical circuit. This makes clean, efficient energy that makes the ship run. This slide shows a hydrogen fuel cell. Step 1 is it sucks up the salt water. Step 2, it filters the water and takes out all the stuff that pollutes, for instance, trash. Step 3, it separates the hydrogen and oxygen away from each other with the cylinder in the middle. Why is our idea important? The cost of gas goes down. The cargo ship companies save about 100,000 gallons of gas a day. And most cargo ship companies spend $200,000 a day on fuel, so it saves them a lot of money.
How is our idea address sustainable transportation? Our idea is sustainable because water, salt, and hydrogen will never run out, making this idea everlasting. It's also sustainable because you don't have to change the hydrogen fuel cell very often. And if you do need to change it, the cost is very low. How is our idea sustainable? Salt water will never run out. We will gain back our money over time. We have much ocean and sea. Our source will never run out. The fuel cell is a reasonable price, and cargo ships carry materials, cargo, and goods all around the world. Here are some pros and cons we have about our list. Water is put back into the ocean. Hot water is stored for people on cargo ship to use. Money to the economy. Takes most stress off of running out of fuel. And offers more jobs to people. Here are some cons. It takes 75 days to get the money back from buying the fuel cell.
How much does our idea cost? For our project, it will cost $25 million to put a hydrogen fuel cell in a cargo ship. The cost might be a lot in the beginning, but we estimate that it will save $200,000 per day on fuel. That is $67 million a year on fuel. We took the value of a car, $10,000, and divided it by a hydrogen car, $100,000, which is equal to a cargo ship, $10 million, divided by the cost of a hydro ship. The cost of the cargo ship is $25 million. We are targeting a big cargo ship company that is APL. APL is a shipping company that exports goods. APL has $7.9 billion of revenue. One cargo ship costs $25 million to power itself. That means that they could have 316 cargo ships if they decided to use all their money. All in all, we believe our idea can be done using a hydrogen fuel cell in cargo ships and hope in the future people will use this energy source to fix the fuel problem.
And thank you very much for your presentation. Urban Promise Academy, do you have a question for our team?
If you can use the ocean, can they harm the animals and the ecosystem?
No, because we have a filter that will stop all those things from going in there.
Okay. Gaithersburg Middle School, grade 7. You're up.
How does it work if the boat isn't moving?
The question was, how does it work if the boat is not moving?
The boat stores the energy to move.
Gaithersburg, grade 8. Do you have a follow-on question?
How would this help the common man?
The question was, how will this help the common man?
It helps the common man by not polluting.
Okay. Toddy Thomas, second team, do you have a question for your counterpart?
Yeah. My name is Luke Krigler, and I'd like to ask, when you put the salt water back into the ocean, how do you think that the diluted mixture will affect the ocean life?
We will calculate how much salt is in the water and in a gallon of it, and we'll add the salt in each gallon to put it back into the ocean for equal amounts.
Shepherd Middle School, we'll turn now to you.
My name is AJ, and we were wondering what were to happen to the waste and the trash that gets sucked up.
We have a maintenance guy that goes in and cleans the filter and all the trash that gets sucked into the tube, and he will put that in a place where it'll be decomposed and turned into other stuff.
Okay. Murata Middle School, do you have a question for our presenting team?
Hi, my name is Peter, and I would like to know how will this address for sustainable transportation on the road, and how will it affect our road?
There will be less trucks on the highway.
How? I believe there was a follow-on question, which was how, to the answer that there will be less trucks on the highway.
Because we transport more cargo with using cargo ships.
Because you send more gasoline, so they'll send more cargo ships instead of diesel trucks or trucks.
Thank you very much. And your last question today will be coming from Frick Middle School.
How will the filter keep the fish and sea creatures out? How much does it cost?
Our idea cost $25 million.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for your fine presentation. We enjoyed it very much. Please join me in thanking our students. Terrific. We'll turn now to our 7th competing team. We'd like to invite Urban Promise Academy to now make their presentation.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Ruby Morgan. We are from Oakland, and our school is Urban Promise Academy. We are One Man's Treasure, a company dedicated to sustainable transportation practices. Our goal is to address 21st century transportation issues by using sewage waste as fuel. Now I would like to introduce you my team members. Here we have Jasmine, our communication team, Omega, our field specialist, Leo, our head scientist, Jenny, our business team, and Elvis, our tech team. Now I'm going to pass it over to Jasmine, talking why it's important to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby. I'm going to be talking about why this is important. When we say 21st century sustainable transportation, we mean meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. There are many issues related to conventional transportation, 3 of the most important being climate change, pollution, and endangerment/extinction of animals. First, this image shows the change in climate in 1984 and 2015. As you can see, the temperature has dramatically increased. This is partially due by the burning of fossil fuels. Second, The burning of fossil fuels creates a negative impact on air quality. This image shows a picture of the Bay Area. The red X represents where our school is located, and the orange color shows an area that suffers from 24-hour exposure to particles called PM 2.5. These particles are harmful if breathed in large amounts because the particles are so small they can get trapped into your lungs. And third, as a result of climate change, ecosystems are changing.
It's not working. It's not working.
Due to this,
It is working. The PowerPoint is working.
Due to this, animals are becoming endangered and extinct. Now I'm going to pass it over to our Omega, our fuel specialist.
Thank you, Jasmine. I will talk about fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are decomposed organisms from over 100 million years ago. Some alternative fuels to use are biodiesel, hydrogen, corn, sugar, and sewage, which we are proposing today. The definition of biodiesel is a renewable source, a renewable clean burning diesel replacement. It can be made from different types of feedstocks. A pro to this is that there is no engine modification required to take biodiesel. A con is that the machinery used to grow the crop is bad for the environment. And when we say sewage as an alternative fuel, we mean to take sludge, separate the water from the sludge, and use the ash in mining, and the water could be reused since California is in a drought and for crops. Now I will pass it to Leo.
Thank you, Omega. This is a journal published by Environmental Science and Technology. I would like to direct their attention to this abstract, which explains how sewage sludge is an economically feasible alternative biodiesel fuel. In order to do this, scientists separated the sewage sludge from the water. This left wastewater and dried sludge. Next, lipids, also known as fat, are extracted from the dried sludge. Then it's converted to biodiesel. The residual can be co-fired with coal to produce electricity. The cost of sludge is the cheapest in this graph, in the oil feedstock price. The most expensive one is microalgae. Out of these options, the most oil yield produced was sewage sludge. Sewage sludge is in many ways. For example, an LA company called Fuel Cell converts sludge into energy to power buildings. Previously mentioned by my team member, the remaining water has other uses. In this case, the water is being used as a hydrogen source for fuel cell cars. Now I would like you to pass it to Jen.
Thank you, Leo. As he said, my name is Jennifer, and I am from the business team. And we are one man's treasure. And our vision is to address 21st century transportation issues by using sewage waste as a means to ease our dependency on fossil fuels. We found a way to turn this into a business, so we would like to partner up with East Bay Municipal Utility District, also known as East Bay Mud. We want to partner up with this company because they provide clean water to the residents in the San Francisco Bay. The best part is that East Bay Mud already uses wastewater and recycles it from sewage. We want to make sewage fuel accessible, but how? Well, sewage fuel can be used as a biodiesel fuel, and it can also be used as energy and electricity, which can be used for homes and electric cars. We also figured that we have to make a biodiesel fuel, and we can also generate electricity from sewage and burn it to produce electricity. Biodiesel in California and the U.S. Firstly, let's take a deeper view of how it looks in the United States. There is approximately 166 biodiesel fuel plants in the United States. In California, there is 8 biodiesel fuel plants. There is approximately 711 biodiesel stations in the U.S. And lastly, there is approximately over 30 biodiesel stations in California. Now I'd like to pass it on to Ruby.
Thank you, Jenny. We would like to thank Ms. Robb, Mr. Miles, Brian, and our team members who couldn't be here today. that helped us throughout this whole project. And a special thanks to Garrett Morgan. Thank you for listening to us. Now I would like you to ask questions.
Very good, and we thank you for a fine presentation. Your first question will come from Gaithersburg Middle School, grade 7 in Washington, D.C.
What about the waste that is ruining the soil because so much of the crops are going into transportation instead of feeding families? Isn't that bad for the environment?
Can you repeat the question?
Gaithersburg, please repeat the question.
What about the waste that is ruining the soil because so much of the crops are going into transportation instead of feeding families? Isn't that bad for the environment?
It's not like if it's this, like, the soil is like, well, I mostly importantly think that, it's not, we don't really depend on the crops, is like, I think that the crop is like, so it's like it's more better than just putting like it's better putting the crops into transportation, because without that there wouldn't be that much. Instead of all that gas and all that CO2 putting into the air, I think it's better putting into the transportation instead of the families.
All right, we'll turn now to Gaithersburg, grade 8, for the second question.
How would you plan to put the biofuel stations into more rural states like Montana or Wyoming?
First, we would try it out here in California to see if the project would work, and then soon, if if the project works here in California, then and people actually like it, then we can turn this business worldwide and actually put more biodiesel fuel stations over there.
Toddy Thomas Middle School, second team. Do you have a question today?
My name's Sergio, and my question is, how will you not pollute the environment significantly by burning sewage?
The sewage is a clean burning diesel.
Okay, thank you. Shepherd Middle School, do you have a question for our presenters?
Hi, my name is Jillian, and where would you find all the money to make it? Where would you find all the money to make it?
Well, I think we would find all the money to make it by partnering with the companies and other companies as well.
Murata Middle School, you're up for the next question.
What is sludge, and how would you separate it from the water?
Sludge is like waste material that is found is in the sewers.
And I think the second part of the question was how would you separate it from the water?
It's being so they separate it by taking the water out of the sludge. Then it's separated into two different piles.
Great. Frick Middle School, do you have a question for our presenters today?
How much will it cost, and what will be used to connect the energy to vehicles?
We can't hear your response.
Oh.
Urban Promise Academy?
Yeah. How would I transmit electricity and energy into cars? Well, like we said, we are planning to use electric cars. So, as I said earlier, that we have to build a biodiesel fuel station in order to actually charge our electric cars.
Okay. And your last question will be from Toddy. Your last question will be from Toddy Thomas, Middle School's first team.
Hi, I'm Isabella. And how will you deal with the pollution from burning the sewage?
We are not burning the sewage. We are just extracting the lipids from it.
Very fine. Thank you so much for your hard work. We appreciate your time today. Please join me in thanking our student presenters. Okay, our eighth and final team, last but not least, joining us from Washington, D.C., is Gaithersburg Middle School, grade 7. Please take it away.
Hello, we are the 7th grade team from Gaithersburg Middle School. My name is Angela Nardone, and I'd like to introduce my teammates, Lily Navarro, Jenna Schneider, Amir Shojadini, and Antonio Johnson. We are trying to find a solution for sustainable transportation.
We are trying to create a sustainable energy source for public transportation that is clean and good for the environment.
Global warming is also becoming an increasingly dangerous problem. Over 62% of today's electricity comes from non-renewable energy sources.
We are trying to pass a law that all public transportation must run off of renewable energy, such as solar power on top of public buses.
It affects our health by damaging lungs and eventually, little by little, tearing away our skin. Why do we need to wait any longer when we are already facing problems today and creating them for the future?
Pollution is a big problem, and it can lead to acid rain. Pollution makes the world dangerous for more than just humans. While the problem is slowly getting larger, we need to stop it now while we still can.
How it's going to work. Step 1, our design. We have to design what the new public transportation would look like. We have to plan a rollout of public transportation vehicles over time with the associated costs. Step 2, propose. We present a proposal to the Maryland and U.S. Department of Transportation to legislate implementation of solar-run public transportation. Step 3, take action. Support public transportation and promote its use across the community. Make public transportation more affordable throughout the community.
Our design is for all public transportation to run fully on solar electric power. Our plan would be to transition beyond public transportation in the future. Example, school buses. We are going to include regenerative braking so you can charge the battery on the go. Using our design, our goal is to provide sustainable transportation and to help keep our level of pollution down.
Why should you choose us? The reason why you should choose us is because our idea is affordable. A fully solar electric bus costs roughly $550,000. The current Metro bus option costs roughly $670,000. We save $120,000 in initial purchase cost and eliminate gas expense over the entire life of the bus. Also, lower operational cost will in turn lower ridership costs. Finally, our idea is helpful, not hurtful. Pollution is eliminated because there are no fossil fuel byproducts in the air, and noise pollution is almost completely absent from our city streets. And talking about those who lose their jobs because of the decreased dependence on gas-powered engines, we can solve that problem by training people to work on the new design. This will open up more jobs and keep America on the cutting edge of technology.
Before we wrap up, we would also like to show you a model of the solar buses that might be used in our city of Gaithersburg. On the model, you can see the 3 different bus lines for our proposal that would serve as public transportation. These buses are a lot like our current transportation that we use now, except less expensive, greener, and lowers our need of gas.
Thank you all for listening to our presentation, and we are open to any questions that you may have.
And we thank you. Our first question will be coming right from that very room from your classmates in grade 8.
How will you get support to pass the law?
Okay, well, we can like email people from the government and try to get them to support our idea through solar energy.
Second question from Toddy Thomas Middle School, second team.
Okay, my name is Caden, and how long will it take you to make back that money that was originally invested into your idea?
So, well, with our idea, it's less expensive than the current cost of the buses that we use now, which is also more money because of the gas that we use with our buses today. So if we switched to the buses that we could use, which are greener and less expensive and lowers our need of gas, we wouldn't need to make up much money because as everywhere needs, because buses run down and they get old, and you're eventually going to need new buses. And as the need for newer buses comes in, each bus that needs to be new, instead of buying the old bus, you could buy the new bus, which would be greener and lowers your expensive gas and is less expensive.
Thank you. Shepherd Middle School, do you have a question for our presenting team?
Yes, my name is Avea again, and we would like to know where you plan on getting the money to put the solar panels in the stations, and you said something about training the people that lost their jobs.
So, talking about the people who lose their jobs, the people who lose their jobs from using less gas for gas stations and oil companies, we can train more people to take care of the buses and to run the buses, so the jobs they even out from losing jobs to gaining more jobs. Hopefully, that the same amount of people who lose their job will gain a new job by training more people in the area of taking care of the bus and running those buses.
Thank you. Murata Middle School.
How much will it cost to fix the solar power buses if they break, like if they have a malfunction or something with the solar power?
That is a good question. So, So we are unsure of the exact cost of what it would be to fix a bus if it broke down. We are not 100% sure on what the exact cost would be. The bus is approximately only $550,000, so I'm sure it'd be less than that to fix it if it broke down, so in that range somewhere.
Thank you. Frick Middle School, your turn for the next question.
How would you market it to people and make sure they ride it to save energy?
Can you repeat the question, please?
How would you market it to people, and how would you make sure they ride it to save to save energy?
Well, we would market it by putting it on top of buses that are already public, like school buses and like metro buses. So it would be advertised through them, and it would be more efficient and more safe because it wouldn't cause pollution in the environment.
Very good. Toddy Thomas Middle School. First. Oh, I apologize. Please.
Using the money that we saved that we're going to save from buying the new buses, you can use that money to market the buses. And the same way we market our metro buses now, or the buses that we use to get places today, we can still use that type of marketing situation, just market a different type of bus.
Okay. Thank you. The next question will be from Toddy Thomas Middle School's first team.
I'm Jenna Lewis, and earlier in your presentation, you mentioned that you have a savings cost of $120,000. Where is that savings coming from?
So the savings is coming through buying the bus. So the current buses that we use now are much more expensive than the buses that we could be using. So as we get newer buses, instead of getting the same buses that we're using now, we're saving $120,000 by buying the different bus that costs much less.
Thank you. Our last question of the competition comes from Urban Promise Academy.
What are the cons?
Is the question, what are the cons?
Yes.
So
what are the cons of your... Yes.
So there aren't very many cons of our situation. I would say that one con to our situation is that we may have to wait a little bit to get support from other people and to get money to pass our law. To pass our law, one of the cons is that we need to pass our law, and we need someone to support passing our law, and I think that's one of the cons.
Another con could be, we could have a small, problem with us trying to save the energy, but we could store them by using batteries and finding a way.
Okay. Does that conclude your response? Yes.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for an innovative presentation. Please join me in thanking our students. Well, that concludes the 2016 Garrett Morgan competition. But before we part for the day, there's a few people I'd like to thank. The first being Ms. Lydia Mercado, joining us from Washington, D.C., representing the U.S. Department of Transportation. Lydia, thank you so much for helping to make this event possible and for coordinating with our students at the U.S. DOT Media Center. I'd also like to thank Linda Jones from Caltrans. From Caltrans, who helped lead the effort on that side. And I can see through the video that we have been joined by Greg Winfrey, U.S. Department of Transportation Assistant Secretary for Research and Technology. We are absolutely delighted to see you there on the screen. And for those of you in the audience, Mr. Winfrey is an attorney by training and an innovator with design and utility patents to his credit. And very importantly, he's a motorcycle enthusiast who is a founding member of the U.S. DOT Motorcycle Club, and he's traveled across the United States multiple times. I always enjoy those conversations. Mr. Winfrey, I invite you to say a few words to our students.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you so much, and it's a great pleasure to be here amongst these.
If the microphone is not on, there you go.
We'll start again. So thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here amongst these inspiring, brilliant minds. I think those of us who are in the transportation industry can sleep soundly knowing that there's a generation of leaders that have got brilliant ideas coming up behind us. So we're extraordinarily pleased here at DOT to be hosting. We're extraordinarily pleased to be partnering with the Mineta Transportation Institute and you, Dr. Philbrick, and it's a wonderful job, and we appreciate this every year. So keep studying, keep doing great things, and we look forward to seeing you around here as employees in the not-too-distant future. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. What an inspiring way to end today's events. And before we say our final goodbye, we have three special people here in the room in San Jose that I'd like to briefly introduce. And that's Emeritus Executive Director of the Mineta Transportation Institute, Mr. Rod Diridon, known as the father of transit in Silicon Valley. We also have sitting to his left, Executive Administrative Assistant Jill Carter, which helped coordinate each and every detail of this event. And finally, we're honored with the presence of Diane Wooden-Jones, one of our Mineta Transportation Institute trustees, and the chairman of the board and principal for Leon Elliott. Thank you for joining us today. And to each of you, we wish you the greatest success. We are very pleased that you joined us, and on behalf of Secretary Mineta, our trustees, and our staff, we applaud you for your fine effort and your tireless work. Thank you. Now go have some lunch and have a nice night. Bye-bye.